So I wanted to freestyle a little bit here. A couple of weeks ago, my son graduated kindergarten, and as a part of his graduation ceremony, they did this little song that was I forgot how it went, but it was like everything I needed to know I learned on the kindergarten wall. It was something like that, and of course, me always thinking about Cyphus. I was also thinking about how that's so true when it comes to everything I need to know or everything I needed to learn about life, or maybe an individual, I can learn on the turf. Or I was thinking kind of like the cipher. I can learn everything I need to know just by sticking to the cipher and seeing how people kind of adhere to it. And we had some newbies in today, and I'm always amazed. My favorite part of my job is showing people Cyphus for the first time, because I'm always proven wrong. I always assume that maybe somebody who looks fit is going to do better, and maybe someone who doesn't look as fit is not going to be able to do the entire hour. A lot of times I will give people out saying people don't always do the entire hour their first time, because I don't want them to feel intimidated or overwhelmed, and I want them to come back. So I don't want to feel like we are kind of cramming in a difficult workout down their throats. And so I'm just always flabbergasted at the people that end up sticking with it are the ones that I often kind of least suspect. And so in a way, I feel like I'm teaching them this new genre of exercise, because I see that light in their eyes, holy cow, this is different and I like it. And on the flip side, I'm like, wow, these people are kind of changing my prejudice against this fitness package that they're bringing to the table, that I maybe didn't think they would be able to do the inchworm without stopping or doing it correctly. And I wrongfully assume those prejudices, I suppose. But kind of going back to what I was saying about everything can be learned on the turf. And you can ask any one of your pros or the turf owners, or even people who are experienced and huge disciples of this genre, that you can learn so much about somebody's personality just by the way they carry themselves on the field. And I'll kind of tie this into the newbies tonight. But I could tell you so much about someone's integrity. I could tell you the way somebody is as like a coworker, as an employee, and not for me necessarily, but for in their regular job at home or outside of the turf. And I could see if someone stops short, or maybe doesn't give the necessary care that's needed for a certain form on a task, or the ones that have deliberate care and intention and plan for the workouts. And I could tell somebody works with somebody else, like I was saying, a coworker, or maybe even marriage or what have you. You can see how people are willing to compromise if they're willing to slow down, take the criticism or the instruction of a certain task in its form, and try to execute it properly. You can also see those who maybe will stop at nothing to achieve a higher score, or to keep up with the Joneses. The way I like to look at it is well, shoot, someone's kind of keeping up with me, or someone's nipping at my heels. I better, cut some corners a little bit to stay ahead. And I feel that often. When I'm working out, and I know in my head that maybe the person next to me they don't have the form that I'm necessarily doing. Let's say it's arachnid or something like that, where my leg's supposed to be stiff, my hip's supposed to be low, at least my shoulder height or lower. And I see the other person kind of getting ahead of me by doing that V-shaped pike. And one part of my brain will say, well, this is unfair. This person's catching up to me. I got to stay ahead of them. And I think part of my brain is saying, well, you could just do that too, and get ahead or stay ahead. But that is the feeling that I think is the most important philosophical thing that we can, I guess, kind of harness, tamper, and kind of work with. Because it's essentially my ego trying to say, well, no, I got to keep up with this person, or I got to stay ahead of them. But really what I'm doing is diminishing my ego. And not to get too heady or whatever, but I don't mean necessarily ego as in status, or how I feel like I should be scoring. It's more or less my primal urge to want to stay ahead or be capitalistic. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying is I got to hold a certain, I got to stay ahead of somebody for a certain, period of time for the score or whatever. I like that feeling of, no, Mike, slow down. Let's do the bully the right way because this is the right way to do it. This is form first. Because I really feel more so within the last year or two that people look to me to know exactly how the form's being done. Not everybody does. I mean, I would say it's good 50-50 margin. Some people want to do the score and that's what motivates them. That's fine. Others want to know exactly how to do the form. And if they do it that way, they're probably going to score lower. And if you're still really new and before you hit that like Sisyphus wisdom thing that I mentioned in a few videos past, if you're still new and you're seeing that increase, and you're like topping out, let's say you're like 900 or you're finishing scores, many people, they don't want to take that score hit. They don't want to be like, all right, I don't want to do that extra little trombone extension because you know what, that's really hard. That I may score lower, I may have to take a break. They don't want to see that first initial hit to their score. I think it's important to see that initial hit. And then try to work with that new plateau, that drop that you might see. So just what I noticed today, and these newbies were fantastic, they were great. I noticed how I administer initiation has changed over the years as I've kind of preached form first as of late. As a part of initiation, the way I've told other pros to do it, and I think the other ones who have hired newer pros have kind of followed this idea, is that I try to say, we're going to stand back a little bit, we're going to teach you how to do it, we want you to do it at your own pace, listen to your body, push yourself when you're able to push yourself, go slower when you need to go slower, but stand back. The pro should stand back, be kind of away from the picture, not overbearing, but give them enough information that they can do the exercises correctly, but don't necessarily push them because they don't know what the proper, pace is, especially if you're new. So I like to sit back and watch, and also not spoon feed, which is something I do consistently with regular members. I'll see someone kind of struggle with the board. I won't necessarily give it to them right away. I'll let them try to figure it out first. I may even let them start the exercise, and then if they need correction, that's when I'll correct them and say, hey, you're doing a monkey crawl instead of a mongoose. This is mongoose, and reiterate the actual task name so they can hopefully try to recall it. But I'm noticing with newbies, I'm even stepping back even further and watching like how they adhere to the cipher without even knowing what the cipher is. Because that way, I'm able to see not only their growth in the way they score, but also the growth in the way they perform form first. So for instance, if I see people doing, forward lunge, but not necessarily to the line, usually I say, make sure you go to the line. Especially the first day, I say, you got to make sure you do one more lunge to get to the line. I will say that usually once, but then if I see them consistently going short, I just kind of see that. I see that that's their first day. I kind of give them a little bit of grace. But that's something I kind of keep in my head because let's face it, first impressions are the most important. And so I'll watch that person continuously when they come back in, and then I'll make sure they go to the line. Because then if you break that habit and that mentality, they're going to improve their fitness level, but they're also going to be learning the cipher and form first and integrity first. And it's just interesting to see how some of these people have blossomed over time, and the ones that really kind of stick to the, get to the line, do all 20 reps, or do form first, are the ones that I'm seeing the largest transformation and the most improvement physically, mentally, and kind of getting the whole package and mentality that I'm trying to convey. So if you learn it on a kindergarten wall, if you're learning it on the turf, doesn't matter how you learn it, it just matters that you're doing it to the best of your ability, and hopefully that permeates and is contagious and teaches other people how to execute the exercises to the best of your ability, and teach others along the way. So it's kind of a form first podcast. I think I'm going to add a couple tips here at the end on footwork, so pay attention to those, and with that, we'll see you on the turf. Alright, let's play a little game of spot the difference with two of our most incorrectly done tasks in the Skuffle and the Yeti. Chances are if you've been correct on this task, it's due to your footwork. So you're going to see two different videos, one that's correct and one that's incorrect. See if you can spot the difference first without breaking it down. This is the correct way to do a scuffle. You'll notice that I pick up speed over time so you can see how I do it in real time. Now the incorrect scuffle. See if you spot the difference. Again, I pick up speed, and the goal here is to see what the pro sees when we teach you the correct way. So now what we're going to do is break it down to a slow motion version, and we use my fast cadence for you to see the difference and really slow it down. And this is what your pro sees when they're correcting you. Notice that I push off my back foot and I land on my front foot. So the last foot to leave when I'm traveling or jumping sideways is actually my left or back foot, and I land on my front foot before transitioning weight. Now the incorrect scuffle is the opposite. It's actually my lead foot that is the last foot to leave the turf. So I'm actually pushing off my front foot rather than my back foot. Remember, it's called a scuffle because it's a sideways skate hop. Alright, so let's take a look at Yeti, another task where footwork drives the entire movement. This is the correct one. Pay close attention to my lead foot. Once more, in real time. Let's look at the incorrect. Again, watch either my lead foot or my back foot in this case. Did you spot the difference? Now in slow motion, the correct way, if you notice my front foot pivots and opens up on the heel, allowing me to transition my body weight, upper body, seamlessly into the next part of the crawl. Now the incorrect way, I take an extra little stabilization step with my back foot. Step, kind of pause, carry all of my weight, and one of the reasons why people do this is to be more stable when they go into the next jump. But if we allow for that, some folks end up covering a lot more ground by taking one large step.